What is going on, you guys? This is the Q-Bone here. I am, of course, wearing teal and black like a Duval cat because I am here to talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars. Wow. I did not post this. I didn't want to make this video immediately after the game had concluded because I wanted to, some time to process, my feelings about the game. And well known that also in this game that Jacksonville was down 27-0 at one point in this game in the first half nonetheless. The officiating was really very, very much terrible, in my opinion. Garbanzo beans, as I like to call it. And, whether it was like a holding on the offensive line for Jacksonville that wasn't called, an interception that the Chargers made against Trevor Lawrence that was supposed to be negated by a defensive holding or pass interference doesn't get called. Some catches that were made on the field that weren't actually catches. And there were multiple of them, one for the Chargers and for the Jags apparently, and they weren't called incomplete passes, they were called catches. And I don't know, the officiating crew in this game was very suspect, to say the least. But yeah, down 27-0. Lo and behold, Jacksonville some way, somehow pulls a rabbit out of their ass as a magic trick and wins the game on a game-winning field goal as time expired, 31-30 over the Los Angeles Chargers. Whew. Man. I'm still trying to process this too. Like it's been a few hours now since the game was over, but I still just am in disbelief that despite the fact they were down 27-0, the Jacksonville Jaguars were able to claw and fight their way back. And it really shouldn't be that surprising because numerous times this season this has happened for Jacksonville, which is why I didn't stop watching the game and went to do something else. No, I sat through that entire first half knowing that Jacksonville, whether it was against the Raiders down 17, whether it was against the Ravens when they were down by like 11 points at one, I believe, whether it was against the Dallas Cowboys when they were down like 27-10, this team has fought through adversity on the field time and time again and has found ways to win. Now, it hasn't always happened that way. They were down 17-0, I believe, against Kansas City, who is more than likely going to be the next team that they have to play in the playoffs. They were down 17-0 at one point in that game. The final score in that game was 27-17, so they still lost that game, but they still clawed and fought their way back into making that game fairly competitive. So my three takeaways from this game are as followed. Number one is that Doug Peterson continues to be the best offseason acquisition the Jaguars could have ever asked for. Not only was he a great leader, he's a great play caller, made adjustments at halftime that were much needed because they were down 27-7 going into that second half. And it's just been a great calming presence that the Jaguars just desperately needed this season after the disaster that was Urban Meyer. Secondly, I'm just going to say it. As long as we have Trevor Lawrence, my guy, as long as we have Trevor Lawrence, we have a shot to win every single game this season, this postseason, and for seasons to come. The mere fact that he threw 4 interceptions in the first half of the game, some of those were not his fault, although some of them were his fault, only to bounce back and throw 4 touchdowns immediately after, speaks volumes to how much growth this guy has gone through over the last, season and a half. And then the third takeaway I have from this game is that the Chargers, they chargered. They somehow found a way to actually blow this game. And I know that's like a popular term among NFL people and fans of the game, you know, the chargering, which really honestly predates the Chargers doing it. Really, the Houston Oilers were the first team that was known for being a huge choke job, especially back in the early 90s. But man, the fact that they were up 27-0 at one point and they fell apart the way they did. Keep this in mind. They had a +5 turnover differential in this game. +5. That meant they turned the ball over defensively. They forced 5 turnovers. You know, there was the 4 interceptions by Trevor Lawrence, and then there was the muffed punt that happened afterwards. The fact that all happened, and they didn't turn the ball over themselves. They didn't throw any interceptions or have any fumbles. The fact that they had a +5 turnover differential and still lost the game. And my final takeaway from this game is the fact that the Chargers really need to do something about this coaching staff. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be the head coach, Brandon Staley, is going to get fired. Maybe he will. As of I'm making this video, he has not been fired after this game. But who knows, maybe a day or two afterwards, they decide, you know, after consideration, we're going to move on from Brandon Staley as the head coach. But even if they don't do that, I think that this team needs to, at the very least, fire their offensive coordinator, Joe Lombardi. Like, it just kind of baffles me that they were up 27-0 and they didn't try to utilize Austin Eckler in the running game afterwards. I think he had like a total of like 0 rushing yards in the second half or something like that. That's pitiful. All right, that's on Joe Lombardi. I think at the very least, Joe Lombardi, if not Brandon Staley, Joe Lombardi has to go for the Chargers. If you're a Chargers fan watching this video, I know there's going to be one Chargers fan watching this video. I know who. Let me know in the comment section down below about what you guys think about Brandon Staley. What do you guys think about the offensive coordinator, Joe Lombardi? Do they need to be let go? Do they need to be retained? All that kind of stuff. And if you do let them go, who would you want as the replacement for said coaches? But with that being said, folks, man, those are my thoughts about this game between the Jaguars and the Chargers. They're one step closer to the Super Bowl, folks. More than likely now they're going to have to face off against one of their toughest opponents this season, the Kansas City Chiefs. I would assume it's the Kansas City Chiefs. If it's not the Kansas City Chiefs, it's the Buffalo Bills or the Cincinnati Bengals. All right, all 3 of those teams are really good. The top tier teams in the AFC. Regardless, until I figure that part out, it's time to celebrate, boys. Yeah. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this video, folks. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Let's go, Jags.